Squiz Kids acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we podcast, the Turrbal and Gadigal people.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Joni Jones, it's Tuesday, May 30th. In Squiz Kids Today, WA Premier stands down. Inside Melbourne's earthquake, life on Mars, on Earth, and a crazy comeback in the NBA. That's what's making news kids style.
The lowdown.
There was a big political announcement in Perth yesterday where Western Australia's Premier Mark McGowan announced he is stepping down as the state's leader. He's been Premier for 6 years, including through the COVID pandemic, where WA had the tightest border restrictions in the country. All up, McGowan's been in politics for 26 years, and this week will be his last. When asked why, he simply said he was tired. He wanted to spend more time with his kids and hoped by leaving long before the next election, one of his colleagues would have a clear shot at the top job. And in Melbourne, all anyone could talk about yesterday was the earthquake that shook the city just before midnight on Sunday. As seismologists confirmed, it was the largest earthquake recorded in the city in 120 years. The powerful quake measured 3.8 in magnitude, and the rolling tremors lasted 10 seconds. While the epicentre was in Sunbury, which is 35 kilometres north of Melbourne, it was felt all the way in Geelong, Ballarat and across the Mornington Peninsula. So if you look at a map, that's a big chunk of Victoria. In fact, according to reports yesterday, no fewer than 22,000 people woke up and reported feeling the earth shake. Many residents have been sharing their experiences. Some were woken with a fright, saying it sounded like a freight train. People living in high-rise apartments in the city spoke of how their buildings swayed, and security cameras captured homes shaking. If you live in Victoria, did you feel the quake? Did you get woken up to a rumble? Have you seen any damage? We know there are lots of Squiz Kids listeners in Craigieburn, a town very close to the epicentre. So guys, if you want to tell us what it was like, record an audio message and email it to us at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au, and you can help be our eyewitness and tell us what it was like. If you want to learn more about the science behind earthquakes, make sure you have a listen to Squiz Kids, your shortcut to Earthquakes and Volcanoes. I'll put a link to it in your episode notes, or you can find it on our website.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Venice, in Italy. Yes, Venice, the unique and picturesque town where famously, instead of roads, there are canals. And instead of cars, there are gondolas. Why? Because this incredible little town is actually 118 tiny islands, all connected by small bridges. But here's what's making news. The water in the canals has turned a shade of a luminous green. Yep, neon green. It started in just a small area on Sunday, but is now spread across the Grand Canal. Venice and its waterways are considered a World Heritage Site because of its unique architecture. So all stops are being pulled to find why the water has turned such an extreme vivid green. I'll post a link in your episode notes so you can see yourself. And while authorities don't know how it's happened, it has been suspected that protesters could be behind the stunt. Watch this space.
Spaced out.
Can you imagine living on Mars? Well, in reality, we are still years and years away from that. But in the name of science and research, a replica of Mars has been built in America, and 4 volunteers are preparing to move inside, pretending to be on the red planet for a year-long experiment. NASA has built a large 3D printed facility at the Space Center in Houston, calling it the Mars Dune Alpha. Inside there are bedrooms, a gym, a vertical garden to grow food, and it will be completely covered in red sand. NASA has made the experiment to resemble closely what living on Mars would actually be like. The volunteers will be tested on how they handle issues like equipment failure and water shortages. They'll be studied on how they behave living in an isolated environment and how they get along with each other, conduct experiments together, and share everyday tasks like cooking and cleaning. So it sounds like a reality TV show mixed between Big Brother, Survivor, and The Big Bang Theory. But the scientists taking part are excited to practice for when setting foot on Mars becomes a possibility. Oh yes, it's the Classroom Companion Clarion, letting us know that today's classroom activity sheets are tied to this item in the podcast. Teachers, if you haven't signed up to receive our free daily worksheets, curriculum aligned and produced by Squiz Kids resident teacher Christy, head on over to squizkids.com.au and enter your details where it says Squiz Kids Classroom. You're welcome.
Sport time.
If you're a basketball fan, today is exciting. It's electrifying, stressful, and all the other emotions that come with nail-biting battles. But this time, it's the final before the final. I get that's a little confusing, so let me explain. The Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics are battling it out in the Eastern Conference Finals in the United States, and the winner will progress to the NBA Finals Series. So this is basically like the semi-final series. Miami and Boston have played each other 6 times, and both teams have won 3 games each. So today is Game 7, the final in the series. But what's been so epic is Boston's comeback. Something that has only happened in the pointy end of the NBA 3 times. Boston lost the first 3 games. Yep, lost all 3 games. They teetered on the brink of elimination, and Miami was so close to going through. But Boston clawed back, not only winning on Sunday by 1 point, but just scraping through by scoring on the buzzer of full time, beating the Heat 104 to 103 points, just 1 point different. I'll put a link of the final shot in your episode notes, which stunned commentators who called it the most insane game ever. What a setup to this morning's Knockout Game 7.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. The canals of Venice turned an unusual shade of neon green. What country is Venice in? That's right, it's in Italy. Question 2. NASA has built a replica of Mars. What colour sand is being used to resemble the surface of the other planet? Yep, it's red. Question 3. Can you name either basketball team battling it out today for a place in the NBA Finals Series? You're right if you said the Miami Heat or Boston Celtics.
Shout outs.
It's May 30, World Multiple Sclerosis Day, a day to raise awareness of MS, to help fundraise and fight for a cure. It's also a special day for these Squiz kids celebrating a birthday today. Joe from Yass, Darcy and Jared from Junee,
Caden from Newrybar, Chase from Beecroft, Bridget from Burpengary, Sienna from Kirrawee, Henry from Lorne, Emma from Delinquin, Harlow from Killarney Vale, Spencer from Mawson Lakes, Eloise from Shado Park, Keisha from Grovedale, Fenton from Runaway Bay, and Lee from Manly. Belated shout-outs go to Jason from Ashmont, Deacon from Darlington, Milena from Sydney, and Lewis, Erin and Bronnie, all from Mount Gravatt. And today's classroom shout-outs go to Class 560 and Mrs Minogue at Sutherland North Primary School, Class 6G and Mrs Grove at Holsworthy Public School, Class 56G and Miss Cole at John Palmer Public School in the Ponds, Class 6C and Miss Marriott and Miss Barker at Ramley Park Primary School in Clyde North, Class 5CD and Miss Caroline at Port Melbourne Primary School, and lastly to Class 4C and Miss Chen at Murray Farm Public School in Carlingford. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up, or if you want a shout out, or if you want a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au or fill out the form on our website. That's all we've got time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have the most excellent day. Over and out.